Hello, my name is Ionis Dijoglu. In this tutorial I'm going to talk about flowchart structure for a video game. A flowchart is a flowchart. It's based on the shapes we are going to use are exactly the same. It doesn't matter if it's for business purposes, it doesn't matter if it's for video game developments, for software development, for database development or website development. Anyway, let's get started. First of all, I need to create a new Word document. By holding the Control key down and press the Enter key a couple times, I've got 3 pages. A flowchart might go to 100 pages or 1 page. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to show you how to create a flowchart in Microsoft Word and how to actually go to multiple pages as well without any issues. Now, the whole purpose of the flowchart is to show to the other people the structure of the system you are going to create, or the video game you are going to create. In this case, is the video game we are going to create. So the title is, let's go to the first page, click here. My title is Flowchart Structure for a video game. Now you can put game name here, so you can put the name of your game here. Let's make it bold. Skip a couple of lines. Now we are going to insert. Let's convert this into a header as well. Let's change the text to black. Okay, now we are going to insert a table. So we're going to insert a table. We need 6 columns and 3 rows. On the first cell we're going to put Terminator. On the next one, data. On the next one, process. On the next one, display. The next one, decision. And finally, flow line. Now if I go too fast, obviously you can pause the video. Well, then you can actually create the table similar to mine. Now I'm going to increase the height here of these 2 rows so I can actually fit my shapes. Because we're creating a flowchart diagram, we need to make sure that the shapes represented on our flowchart are clearly displayed here, so people can actually refer to them as they go through, in order to actually understand the structure of a flowchart, just in case they're getting confused. So the first one we're going to add is a flowchart terminator. So we're going to go to Insert, Shapes, and we're going to go to a flowchart section, and we need to find a terminator. So the terminator shape looks like this. So when you go over with your mouse, you will be able to see flowchart terminator. So we're going to click and drag here. Now a flowchart terminator can contain multiple values. However, the most easy to understand values, in my opinion, is start. I'm going to hold, click away, click again here. I'm going to hold the Control and the Shift key on my keyboard. And as you can see, the mouse cursor changes with a little plus icon. And when this happens, I'm going to click and drag down. So not only I'm replicating the symbol, but also I'm putting the symbol direct in the same line. And I'm going to put here, and the next shape we need to add is data. So the data will actually allow us to display input and output. And the input and output, the data symbol, looks like this. So you can see again, shows flowchart data. I'm going to click once, I'm going to click and drag. Let's increase the size a little bit here so we can fit the text. So I'm going to put input. I'm going to click away, click once again. I'm going to hold the Control and the Shift key down, click and drag, and then I'm just going to change that to output. Okay, if it doesn't fit, I'm just going to highlight this, Control A, and I'm going to just reduce the size a little bit. So I'm going to go to the Home tab and click this option here, just to take one step down. I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to take one level down from size 11 I've made it size 10. Anyway, the next one is process. A process basically is just a rectangle. So we're going to go to the shapes, scroll down. Here's the process. As you can see, it's just a rectangle. I'm going to click and drag, increase the width. And the process is basically an action or a process. So I'm going to hold the Control and the Shift key down. And I'm going to type here process. I'm going to hold the Shift key down and select them both. I'll just slightly reduce the width, sorry. Now the display, I'm going to add a display shape now. Insert shapes. Now the display shape is here, flowchart display. I'm going to click and drag. And the display shape could display a number of different things. For example, it can display a menu. I'm going to Control and A to select the text, all the text. I'm going to click on the Home tab, reduce the size slightly. Let's increase the width a little bit. Let's see if we can actually increase the size slightly. No, okay, we'll leave it like that. Now I'm going to hold the Control and the Shift key down, and could be the main menu, could be you win, could be you lose, etc., etc. And next is the decision. So the decision symbol shape is this one, so flowchart decision, and we're going to click and drag. And the decision shape has two values: true, false, yes, no. So in this case, I'm just going to put yes, no. If you're dealing with programming, it's going to be better if you put true or false. Just before I replicate this, I'm just Control Z to undo, Control A to select the text. Just reduce the font size slightly. Hold the Control, click away. Hold the Control and Shift key. Replicate the shape. Change it to no. And finally, a flow line. A flow line is no more than basically a line, an arrow. This arrow can go up or down, left or right. Now, as you can see, I've created a nice straight line. If you click on the Insert Shapes and arrow, and you click and drag here, you can see here, to have more control in order to create a straight line, because sometimes you're going to struggle to create a straight line, the shortcut for this is the Shift key down. So if you hold the Shift key down, you will be able to create a straight line as you click in the dragging. Anyway, this is my table, which explains all the shapes, which I'm going to be using on my flowchart. Just going to highlight the headers, make them bold, increase the size slightly, and center line the text, make it look a bit more professional. Now you can change the colors of the shapes, so we can put the terminators. If we double click here, we're gonna go to the format window. Oops, let's go to the, okay, we're gonna go to the format window. We can use some of the presets here, so let's use that one. So for that one, let's use that one. For that one, let's use that one. So changing the colors, have different colors on your shapes, it does help. Let's make it okay. Now what you can do, you can basically go to Home tab, click on the Format Painter Browse, click that one, Format tab, oops, let's select the border, Format Painter Browse, click once, 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 finally Format Painter Browse, click once. So as you can see, we're using different ways to do different things. So hopefully you will learn something extra throughout this tutorial. Anyway, to get started, we need to actually put a terminator to get started. So we're going to hold the control key down, and I'm just going to click and drag to add a terminator. Now my terminator, let's put some bubbles as well. You don't have to really do this when you're developing something, a flowchart diagram. I'm just putting this for tutorial purposes. So in my bubbles, I'm going to basically explain what each of these are, so we won't forget, because we're going to change the name here. So here my terminator will be game name, so the name of the game. Now you can increase the width slightly if you want, or let's, instead of messing with the shapes, let's Control A, let's reduce just the size of the font, so to keep consistency on the shape size. Anyway, next we need to put a flow, so I'm going to select the flow line, Control, click and drag, and now I'm going to add a process. So I'm going to add a process. Oops. You can use the arrow keys on your keyboard. So the process, let's click and drag this. Let's put this there. So we know that this is for that one. We know that this is for that one. And this is process. My process is a loader. And then I'm going to put a decision maker. And obviously I need to put a flow chart line. So my decision maker will have to make a choice. The choice is yes or no. So in this case I need to put a text box. Insert shapes, text box. And my text box will say yes. Let's reduce the size slightly. I'm going to hold the control key down. Then I'm going to say no. I'm going to hold the shift key down for both of them. I'm going to go to the home tab. Okay, no, I have to do it manually. So let's center align this. Center align this. So put them next to the arrows. So yes, no. Now, if the game, you add in the game onto the console or to the computer, the game loads. So we need to actually find out if the game loaded, is fully loaded. So here we're going to put here decision. So we can Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Let's keep the formatting, the original formatting. And here we need to put game loaded. Let's reduce the size slightly. Just going to put game loaded 100%. Let's reduce the size slightly more. When we zoom in, we'll be able to see it. Bear in mind, this is an electronic version, so people can zoom in and zoom out. So let's increase the size slightly. No, we cannot do that. Let's put it back the way it was. So game loaded. Did I spell it correctly? Yep. Let's reduce. So I'm just using my wheel on my keyboard, on my mouse, and the control key to zoom in and zoom out. Alternatively, you can click and drag here, zoom in, zoom out. What is easier for you? Okay, so we have the decision making. So is the game loaded 100%? Yes or no? If it's no, then we're gonna basically try to load the game again. If yes, we need the next step. The next step is we want to display something. Oops, Control Z, hold the Control key down, click, okay. And what we want to display is the main menu. So I'm just going to click and drag this here. Again, you don't have to put this. Display. Now, once we have displayed the main menu, it's time for us to actually receive some data. Oops, let's delete the extra one. The data we will receive is the name of the player. Okay, let's jump in a bit. Okay, doesn't matter. Let's leave it as it is. Now, after the input, within the input actually, let's put this there. So the input is the data. So instead of actually leave it as input, we're just going to change the message, and the message will be player's name. Control A, reduce the size. So we're asking the player basically to add his name or her name onto the game, and then we need a process. Sorry, an action. Which is a process anyway. And the action is new game. Now, for the new game, we have to make a decision now. So I'm going to click once on the no, hold the shift key down, and I'm going to click on the arrows for the decision making, so I don't have to go through it and do them again all from scratch. So I'm just going to put this there, and I'm just going to still the arrow here. Now, is the game loaded? So here we need to change slightly. So game loaded, we need to change the message slightly. So we're just going to say new game loaded. So this is the original, the full game, where it takes us to the main menu, and this is the new game, so the player can basically start playing. Now, if the answer is no, if the new game is not loaded, what we need to do, we need to send the end user to the new game. Alternatively, if the game is 100% loaded, now the player is ready to actually play the game. But before he plays the game, we're going to put an actual display here. So let's copy both, hold the shift key down. So we're going to put a display here. Zoom out a little bit. And the display will be a little message says 3, 2, 1, go. Let's put here decision. Now, Once the player starts playing the game, we want to basically the player to have the player to have control of the character. So we're gonna go there. I'm gonna put a process. It's basically it's gonna be an action. So I'm gonna hold the control key. Oops, Control Z. Okay, let's try again. Hold the control key down. Scroll down. What I'm going to type here is player control character. So let's reduce the size. Let's check that I spelled it correctly. Character, yeah, that's fine. And we just need to put an arrow. So 3, 2, 1, go. The player is ready to control the character. So this is a process, the action actually, but it's part of the process. Now, once this is done, we need to actually make a decision, and then the decision will be again, did the player win or the player lose? So I'm gonna control and click and drag here, and I'm gonna put an arrow here, and I'm gonna extend this arrow, and let's get this arrow here, hold the control key down. So to continue on the next page. So that's how we move into a different page with the flow chart. So if it's no, basically what we need to put here is player win, yes, no. If it's no, we need to display. Oh, we have a display here. Oops. We need to display a message to the player. Game over. And then we need to send the player back to the new game. Alternatively, if the player win, we need to display again a message. You win. And then I'm going to put a terminator. Oops. The terminator will be a full motion video followed by the end. Control A to select all. I'm just going to reduce the size slightly. Going to put full line. I'm just going to copy the word terminator. Needs to go there. Let's reduce the size slightly. Copy that. And I'm going to paste it there. So that's a terminator. So this is my flow chart structure for a simple video game. Obviously, this simple video game will expand. It will have maybe multiple lives. So therefore, you will be able to actually expand. You have gap on the right, you have gap on the left, so you're gonna have to remove these little bubbles so you have more space. Remember, if you're struggling with space, you can always zoom in and make your flowchart symbols smaller. Bear in mind, everything is electronic nowadays, so people can actually zoom in and zoom out to read information that is too hard to read on paper. Let's see the overall picture. Let's delete the last page, which we no longer need. And here is my flowchart structure for a video game, a simple video game, which is detailed enough for professionals and non-professionals to understand. And that's the purpose of a flowchart. So we can delete that. If you don't want to go to the new page, you can always go across. So there is not a set of rules there, and then you can go back up if you wish to keep everything on a single page. It's up to you how you're going to construct your flowchart diagram. It looks confusing when you see it at first glance, but if you study the flowchart, it will start make sense. And that's the whole idea behind it when we're talking about flowcharts structures. Hope you've learned something new today. Thank you for watching.